You're watching Car Babble. I'm Ewan, and this is the Hyundai Santa Fe plug-in hybrid in ultimate trim. Now this car was refreshed in 2021, and that's when they brought out the plug-in hybrid version. So it's been out for a little while, and there's quite a few reviews about it on YouTube. However, I think you'll struggle to find too many owner-style long-term reviews. Well, you're in luck because I've recently just leased this car, and I'm going to be stuck with it for 4 years. So not only have I got a vested interest in hoping it's half decent, but yeah, I've had a bit of time to get to know it in the last few months, and I've got quite a lot to say about it. So I'm hoping I can tell you a few things about it that you might not have heard anywhere else. I'm also going to make a series about this car because, yeah, I do have a lot to say about it and I want to document my ownership experience. But in this video, I'm going to tell you all the main things you need to know about it and whether or not this is the right car to get for you. So if you enjoy my content, don't forget to like and subscribe. Otherwise, buckle up and let's get into it. Now let's talk briefly about the looks of this car because I think it's a lovely looking car, and that's one of the reasons we picked it. And we picked it in this magnetic force metallic grey. That was my wife's choice, but it wouldn't be my choice. But yeah, it's a pretty nice looking colour as well. But the front end of the car is really where I think it looks its best. It's just got kind of a mean, aggressive kind of look with those slick LED headlights and the big grille. The side profile is nice. It's a pretty long car. It's nearly 4.8 metres long, 1.9 metres wide. So it's a big car. And yeah, the back end just looks like a big traditional bulky SUV, which it is, you know. I mean, it looks like your old school off-roader, although I wouldn't really recommend doing too much off-roading, even though there's some buttons down there that kind of suggest you can do that. But yeah, it's got that kind of look about it, and yeah, I really think it looks nice. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments. Now let's briefly talk about specs, because it's pretty straightforward with this Santa Fe. You've got the premium spec, and then you've got the ultimate spec. The premium is very well equipped anyway. It's got all the main things you would want and need. And then the ultimate trim, which is this, obviously has all the bells and whistles because I'm kind of a big deal. No, I just really like having a pan roof, and it's got that, and it's got a full suite of safety kit. It's got electric memory seats, and it's got an upgraded sound system, which is a must for me. So yeah, I went for that one, and it wasn't that much more expensive than premium when we leased this. So let's talk engine specs because, well, I'm going to focus on the plug-in hybrid because that's the one I'm driving and I own. But yeah, essentially this one is a 1.6 turbocharged petrol with an electric motor and a 13.8 kilowatt hour battery, producing a combined 261 horsepower and 350 newton meters of torque, and that'll get you 0 to 60 in about 8.8 seconds. You also get a full hybrid that's not a plug-in one, and a diesel drivetrain as well. And all engines I mentioned, including this one, come with all-wheel drive, except for also the full hybrid you can get in front-wheel drive. But yeah, the specs for the full HEV and the diesel I'll put up on the screen now because I can't actually remember them. Now obviously a diesel engine is always going to be a little bit less hassle to run and a bit torquier, but I have to say I'm reasonably impressed with the performance of this plug-in hybrid, and yeah, it does feel like it's got enough grunt to get past people when you need to overtake, and that's really all you're really looking for with a car like this, aren't you? You're not looking for it to be a major sports car, but yeah, the real surprise with this car is the way it handles. I've really had no complaints about it. It's been much better than I thought. I never got to test drive this car before I bought it because they didn't have any stock, so I had to kind of take a punt. And yeah, I've been very impressed with it, more so than I expected. I expected for a big, heavy 7-seat SUV that doesn't have any sort of fancy adaptive suspension and that's got the extra weight of the batteries, that it was going to be a bit lumbering and a bit roly-poly in the bends. And nope, not at all. Rides on 19s. The suspension is pretty perfectly tuned, I think, for a car of this size and weight. It's you do feel a few imperfections at low speed, but when you get up to speed you don't really notice anything, and it rides lovely. It just handles so nice. My kids aren't barfing in the back. The steering is pretty good as well. I mean, it's not a Honda Civic Type R. I'm not, throwing it in the bends, but I don't feel like I'm running out of grip or it's like massively oversteering or understeering or anything like that. It's just really competent, and I'm really surprised how good it's been in that regard. And so yeah, I'm not going to say it's fun, but it's really, really, really good to drive on a country road for a car this size. Never expected it to be this good. The gearbox as well, it's a 6-speed auto, and yeah, it gets on, does its job. I find sometimes the gear changes down the way are a little bit jerky, and if you're going up a hill and it feels it needs to drop a gear, you do notice it sometimes, but all in all, it's pretty smooth, and I'm not expecting it to be particularly fancy. You've got gear shift paddles as well, but why would you use them in a car like this? One thing I'm not that impressed with is the sound of the petrol engine. Put your foot down. it's pretty gruff. It's very gruff, in fact. It's really unrefined. So that's definitely something that I'm not particularly impressed with, and I have seen other people say the same. So I don't know if that's the engine or if it's the sound insulation, the engine bay or what, but you really hear it revving out when you put your foot down. But otherwise, noise insulation's not too bad. Do hear a bit of noise from the tyres, but I am driving on scubby Scottish country roads. And the wing mirrors, not a lot of noise from those. So yeah, not too bad in that regard, but yeah, that engine is definitely something that makes it feel just a little bit less premium than other parts. Visibility is good, yeah, can see around really well, and obviously with this pan roof it just feels very airy in here. Yeah, I don't have any issues with that. I've got big wing mirrors, just generally feel like I can see everything I need to see, so yeah, pretty happy with that. And yeah, it's just a lot better to drive than I was expecting. Now, if you're buying a plug-in hybrid, the chances are it's for one of three reasons. You're either looking to cut down on your energy bills, or you're trying to save the planet, or you're a company car buyer and therefore you're looking at specific tax breaks you get from plug-in hybrids and EVs, etc. Well, on the energy consumption front, I'm pleased to say that the 36 miles of range that Hyundai say you'll get out of this 13.8 kilowatt hour battery, every time I turn it on, even in winter, it says that's the range I'm getting, which is amazing because I thought it would really dip in winter, and I've had other plug-in hybrids where that massively was the case. So pretty impressed with that, and yeah, it's really good in that regard. I mean, if I'm able to do my commute on EV range pretty much every time, then yeah, you're going to be able to get pretty good overall MPGs. And my overall MPGs since I've had this car is 62.4 miles per gallon. Now that sounds amazing, but obviously you have to factor in the cost of electricity, and every time you plug this in, it's going to take about 3.5 hours from a wall box to do it and to charge it. And yeah, from there, that could cost anywhere from £2 to £3, even £4 if you do a full charge. So yeah, if you think about the cost of that over a month and then add that to the cost of what you spend on petrol and then try and work out what your true MPG is, it ain't 62.4. One thing that has kind of bothered me about this car is that you don't ever seem to get the option to drive an EV range entirely for long. And I will say, at least in my Octavia VRS IV before, at least when you said I want to be in EV mode, generally it would just let you burn out the battery as quick as you wanted. Whereas here, it doesn't really ever let you do that. You always seem to have something kicking in the petrol engine. If you put a lot of throttle down, almost always kicks in the petrol engine. Sometimes it just idles with the petrol engine on, sometimes it switches it off. But yeah, you rarely ever seem to go that far without seeing your petrol engine kicking in, and that kind of bothers me because I'm like, no, if I've got battery and I want to use it, sometimes I just want to use it. But it's all relative, isn't it? You're always going to just eventually use your battery up. And so yeah, you get to a point where you just start not worrying about it and you go, just let it do its thing. You can have different drive modes to drive in. You can be an EV, you can be an HEV, where it will drive with the petrol engine and electric motor all the time, and it will use very little battery doing that, so it's better for longer journeys. And then you've got smart mode, where you can basically just let it decide for you, and automatic mode, which to me feels like the same thing. And yeah, it will kind of just eke it out a bit further. So if I was doing short journeys, I would try and be in EV mode. If I was doing medium length journeys, like maybe 50 miles round trip or whatever, I'd probably put it into smart or automatic mode. And if I was doing a long journey, like on a motorway, I would put it into HEV mode and just eke out the battery a little bit as far as I could get, and then when I was near home I would flick it back into EV mode and just eat it up, because I know I'd be able to charge it again. I can't say much yet about reliability because it's quite a new car, but yeah, Hyundai aren't tending to have a bad reputation for that. What I will say is you've got a 5-year warranty, and that's pretty darn good, because yeah, if you're buying this new, if you've got on a PCP or a lease for 4 years, this was a 4-year lease, then for the whole time of ownership you've got warranty, which is great peace of mind. Whereas if you had a lot of other brands, after 3 years you're out of warranty, and that 4th year you might be sweating a bit. One thing that is really annoying is yeah, sometimes when you're coming off the line, especially if you're like slowing down to stop and then you go, oh no, I'll just go again, like it just seems to leave you hanging. Like you put your foot down and nothing happens, and it doesn't seem to matter what mode you're in. I'll do it here, just really slow down to stop, and then that was at least a second before it responded and gave me any kind of power to move forward. So if you're looking to nip out in traffic or like a roundabout or something, be very careful, because yeah, it's really bad for that. It just seems to take forever to actually, I don't know if it's finding a gear or if it's because of the hybrid train, but it really is very slow to respond at times off the line. And yeah, if you're trying to get out quickly, then you've really got to be careful. Now let's take a look in the boot of the Santa Fe, power tailgate, and yeah, in 7-seat mode, not a lot of space, and the fact there's nowhere to store the cables under the floor is really annoying. So yeah, that very limited area there is taken up by those, so it's not great for that from a load lugging point of view. So if you had a big family, you're gonna need a roof box or something for all your stuff. But yeah, if you do drop down these two seats, all of a sudden you've got a pretty decent load bay, 571 litres or thereabouts, depending on how far forward you put the middle two seats. But yeah, they've really thought about their back two passengers, because you've got cup holders here as well if those seats are up. You've got rear AC vents, you've got lots of tie down points, a 12-volt socket, and yeah, if you want to put down all the seats, press a little button electrically, those middle seats go down as well, and you've got over 1600 litres there. So it's a very big load bay. This is a very good boot. It's just a shame they didn't give you somewhere to put the cables. In the back of the Santa Fe, and it's really spacious back here, especially if you have the seats as far back as they go. You can prioritise your boot space, but I like to have it as far back so my kids don't kick my seat constantly. But yeah, you've got plenty of space. I mean, look at that knee room. Seats in my driving position. I've got plenty of headroom, and yeah, that's with a pan roof. You've got these sun blinds in case they're getting blinded by the sun. Rubbish door bins just like in the front, and yeah, things will rattle about in there. Got two USB ports, you've got air vents, and you've got pockets here. You've even got a little hook for putting something there, like a coat or something hanging there. And yeah, seats are really comfy. You don't get 40 split fold rear seats, but you do get this armrest with a couple of cup holders, or not adaptive again. And yeah, you've also got Isofix in the other two seats. Not very easy to get to them actually, but you've also got Isofix in the front passenger seat, which is good. But yeah, obviously you can have this as a 7-seater as well. And yeah, it's really good. Really can see the kids spreading out here, no problem. So the interior of the Santa Fe, and yeah, it's very nice. In fact, it feels so premium in here that you would really wonder where your money's really going if you buy a premium brand. I think this, compared to like a Volvo XC90 in terms of quality, the difference is quite nominal, and the price difference isn't. Everything feels like all the touch points, other than your elbow rests, which are a bit hard, but touch points around the cabin are all really nice and soft. This bit down the side here where your knee rests against, really nice. And yeah, door close. As you'll notice, my seat went back and forward there. It does that every time you get out of the car. It pulls your seat back for you to make it easier to get in and out. Very American feature, but I kind of like it, except in that instance it was kind of annoying. But yeah, door close, pretty good, but not like really high quality. It's not a tinny door sound, but it could be a little bit better. But yeah, I'm nitpicking there. Quality is really nice overall. And yeah, buttons are nicely damped in the steering wheel, and there really is a really nice steering wheel. It's got a nice feeling about it as well. Really can't say anything bad about the quality. The indicator stocks, yeah, feel quality. Absolutely great, and really feels premium in here. Now let's talk about storage, because it's a bit mixed, to be honest. These door bins are rubbish. First of all, they're really narrow at the front. Not sure what you get in there, some business cards or something. And then there's a recess for a bottle, and if you've got a bottle, okay, this is a bit of a large bottle, but yep, it ain't fitting in there, and I don't think too many bottles will. Not felt lined. Not got rubber mats on the bottom, really cheap plastic, not good door bins at all. Cup holders, not the best either, to be honest. There's 2 teeth on each one, but not 4 teeth, and so they hold your bottle a little bit, but they're quite shallow really, even though it looks like it's deep. And yeah, they just look a bit of an eyesore. I'm like, they must have been like, they've designed this whole area, and then somebody's gone, cup holders. You've got a big middle bin here, it's quite deep as well, so you get plenty of stuff in there, so happy with that. And a big floating console area underneath, and you will get this bottle in there and then some. There's a 12-volt socket and a USB port as well. You've also got this little interesting tray that you could put a mobile phone or something above the glove box, and it's got a rubber mat on it so things won't slide about. So yeah, why didn't they do that in the doors? That would have made a lot of sense. But anyway, you've also got a pretty decent sized glove box. Only problem is they've given you the Littlewoods catalogue of manuals in there. I mean, like, have they not heard of this thing called the internet, you know, where you can get information online? That is really unnecessary, and yeah, you'll end up putting it in your house, and then when you come to sell the car, you'll have forgotten where you put it, and then they'll go, where's the manuals? And you'll be like, oh. So yeah, storage is a bit mixed. No sunglasses holder up there either. So I'm not particularly wowed by storage, but it's ample, I would say. Something that is really good in this car is connectivity, because, well, first of all, you've got this little slot for your mobile phone here, which is not just a nice little cubby, it's a wireless charging area. And if you've got that on your phone, which this one doesn't, you can put it in there and it'll charge. And yeah, just be careful if you've got a really wide, thick camera to not put it in that way, because it could get stuck. But yeah, you don't have wireless Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, so you do have it though, so you'll need to plug it in. So you've got a USB here that you can easily loop to there. And then obviously if it's too big a cable like this one, it's going to get in the way of your bottles if you've got them there, so remember that. Then as I say, you've got a 12 volt and a USB under there. But yeah, let's talk technology in this center console, which is the kind of main centerpiece of this car. And yeah, there's a lot of buttons here. If you like buttons, you'll love this. And yeah, if you like touchscreens, well, yeah, you've still got the option of a touchscreen here. But I do like the fact that you can circumvent that by using buttons most of the time. The only thing I would say is it's a bit low down. I would prefer it to be a bit higher up, so it's a bit more in your eye line. So you do kind of go a little bit, and that can sometimes be a little bit annoying. But yeah, you've got pretty much everything here. You've got your heated seats, you've got your ventilated seats in the Ultimate trim, you've got all your drive settings on this little dial and this button here, and this HEV button, and then you've got your heated steering wheel, you've got your parking camera stuff, then you've got your climate controls, and then you've got your shortcuts at the top for your media, your radio, etc. One thing I would say is when you do put inputs in here to go into the infotainment, there's a little bit of a lag before they show. So if you change your temperature, it takes about a second before it actually shows up there. And so if you're, wanting to just quickly look, yeah, you kind of feel like you have to watch the screen a little bit longer than you'd like to just see that it's done what you wanted. So it is a bit laggy, and I would definitely say this infotainment system overall is a bit laggy. That's one criticism I have of it. When you swipe, when you press buttons, it is a little bit slow to respond. However, otherwise it's very customizable and everything's easily laid out. And yeah, I think it looks nice. So no major issues, but you don't have to use it too much, and that's the key thing. One thing I'm not a big fan of is this gear selector, this shift by wire button system here. I find it really annoying. One, because you have to look down to check which buttons you're pressing. It's not like a gear stick or a little dial where you can kind of just feel the gears, but also it's quite unresponsive. Sometimes you think you've pressed a button and it hasn't pressed. And so if you're doing a quick 3-point turn, you're like, I'm in drive, I need to get into reverse, and then you put the foot down a bit, and all of a sudden you lunge forward, you're like, oh, I'm not in reverse. And so sometimes that's annoying and can be a bit dangerous, if I'm honest. And when you're in a car park, a tight car park, yeah, be very careful and deliberate with the button presses with this, because it can be a little bit tetchy. So that is, yeah, not a fan of that. Otherwise, everything else here is great. And then you've got your head-up display and your digital cockpit. Now the head-up display is really good, as long as you're not wearing polarized sunglasses and you can barely see it, but that's pretty much the same with all of them. It's got lots of information there. You can customize that as well, and it'll tell you your lane keep info, i.e. if you're using it or not. I'll come back to that. And then you've got, yeah, this digital cockpit, which is really bright, great graphics, customizable as well, depending on your drive modes and your view and stuff like that as well. And I like to change it so you've got a rev counter instead of an eco gauge, because I want to know when my petrol engine's kicking in, which is a lot more than I would like. But yeah, that is good. And then on top of that, you can customize the driver information, obviously. And I like to be able to see different types of characteristics from my drive, and it's very good at giving you all that sort of information. So that's cool. And then yeah, your buttons on the steering wheel, the right side, you've got your pilot assist. So it'll keep you in lane and use your adaptive cruise, basically do nothing, and all the modes around that. And then yeah, you've got modes to adapt your settings on your cockpit. On the left side here, you've got your telephone settings and you've got your voice control. That I need to do a bit more testing on before I can tell you what that's like. And then you've got little toggles for volume up. You press it up, volume down, you press it down. But for track next, you go down, and for track back, you go up. Yeah, I'm not really sure what they were thinking there, but that's really not particularly intuitive, is it? It's like, yeah, no, I don't like what they've done there. So yeah, that's a bit annoying, but overall, the whole driving position, the whole steering wheel, the whole information, everything just feels in a good place. You've got so many different ways to use things, and I like that. I like the options of buttons, a touch screen. You can do a lot of things from your steering wheel. Very, very well set up. Technology in this car is excellent. Now, the lane keep assist, a real bugbear of mine. I've said this in other videos. In this car, like many now, it's always on when you switch the car on, so you can't ever permanently switch it off. Really, really find that frustrating. But yeah, it's just one button to switch it off, and you'll know it's on, one, because it's always on when you first start the car, two, because it shows in your head-up display, and three, because, well, if you do a funny input with the steering wheel, it'll let you know. That's the whole point of it. But if you're somebody like me who's going to move heaven and earth to switch it off, you're going to just do it anyway. So you might as well make it as easy as possible for me. And they almost did, because they give you one button to press down here. The only problem is you don't just press it, you have to hold it down for like 2 to 3 seconds before it switches off. And that is just another distraction that I could be doing without. And it just ends up getting under your skin, because you're just like, oh yeah, oh, that's it off. It's like, just let me switch it off easily. You're not going to entice me to still use it by making it more annoying to switch it off. So I just find that sort of stuff just bugs me. But these seats, they are really good. I would say almost Volvo levels of good. I could do lots of miles. In fact, we have done lots of miles and got out and felt fantastic. There's no stiffness, nothing. This one is like fake leather, and yeah, good electric adjustment, 2-position memory, 4-way lumbar support, thigh extension. This one's electric as well, and you can also adjust it from the side of the seat, which is interesting and pretty useful. However, you don't get lumbar support at all, which I find really annoying. I'm like, yeah, would really like to have lumbar support, please. That's kind of a ergonomic feature that all cars should really have in their front seats. So they cheaped out on that one. But yeah, overall, really comfortable seats, and the driving position's great. Just these elbow rests are a bit hard, but other than that, you could just sit here and it's a headrest, so comfy. Now, two of the main reasons went for the ultimate trim are you get the pan roof, which we love, and we thought the kids would love, although they don't really seem bothered about it. They keep telling us to close it. I'm like, no, we got this car to have a pan roof. You're having it open. The other thing was the Krell upgraded sound system, which is really punchy, sounds really good. It's not the best upgraded sound system I've ever heard, but it is decent. The only thing is, when you don't plug your phone in, it doesn't sound good at all. In fact, when it's like connected through Bluetooth, when I first got the car, I did it like that, and I was like, I'm going to send this car back. It sounded terrible. It was like the sound was only coming out the middle speaker. I was like, this is really bad. And then when we started using Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, it was like, and it sounded miles better. So I don't know what's up with that. I would expect there'd be a little bit of quality loss to Bluetooth, but not that much. So yeah, I'm interested to know what's wrong with that. If anybody else can tell me, please do. Otherwise, yeah, I'm gonna investigate that one a bit further, and I'll let you know if I find anything out. But yeah, those were the two main options I really wanted, and yeah, I'm glad we went for the ultimate trim. So the competitors for this car are going to be in the premium segment. You're going to have the Volvo XC90, the Land Rover Discovery Sport, the BMW X7, although that's arguably even a bigger car. Mercedes GLS, same thing. Audi Q7, and then if you go down to the sort of comparative segment of this car, the Kia Sorento, the Peugeot 5008 for example, and the Kia Sorento is the same under the skin, but it's a few grand more, and you're not really getting anything more for that, other than I think Kia's just got maybe a slightly better name in the market at this point than Hyundai. But I've driven the Sorento as well, and I don't see anything about it that's better than this. So if you're comparing the two, it's a no-brainer for me. This one is the one to go for. However, when you consider the amount of standard kit you get, even with the premium spec, as I say, barring the upgraded sound system, the pan roof, ventilated seats, and a few extra bits of safety kit, then yeah, you know, it's got all the things you could really want and need. And then, yeah, the gap between that and, say, if you wanted a non-plug-in hybrid Volvo XC90, for example, that alone is still going to be way more expensive than this at just over 50 grand. And if you went for the plug-in hybrid, it'd be even more expensive, and then you'd have to add some options on as well. The gap is just too big, and I just think when you compare any of those premium brands and how you'd price them up to get the same amount of cars you got here, the only thing you could argue is that premium brands, you're going to get a bit more performance potentially, especially if you go for like a 6-cylinder engine. But really, that's about the only thing over this that's got that's really standing out. Otherwise, everything else is, the gap is closer than the price gap is, if you get what I mean. So yeah, I think this car punches above its weight. I think the sweet spot is probably the diesel, and if it had been available to order at the time we ordered the plug-in hybrid, we would have probably gone for it, because it's 5 grand cheaper than this. So you're talking from 40 grand for the front-wheel drive HEV version of this in premium spec, then you've got about 45 grand for the diesel and just over 50 for this plug-in hybrid ultimate trim. That's a big difference in price, but the diesel being in the middle there, I think, well, over the time of ownership, will we make back about 5 grand in energy savings by having plug-in hybrid over the diesel? I don't think we will, and therefore, for the hassle factor of not having to plug it in, plus that point, I would have gone for the diesel. And the fact is, if you go on a lease, you don't have to pay any tax either, so you wouldn't have to worry about a really high tax bill in the first year on that diesel either. So all those reasons, I would have gone for the diesel if I could have ordered it, and that would be the only thing I would have done differently. But yeah, outside of that, I'm nitpicking here. Really, it is a great all-rounder, and I absolutely love it. And I'm feeling pretty smug that we ordered it, to be honest, because so far it feels like it was a really, really inspired choice. This was £426 a month with about a 5 grand deposit on a lease over 4 years, like a 9,000 mile limit each year. We added a tow bar that's detachable and also paint protection, all included within that price. I thought that's pretty good value considering we've got no tax, and hopefully we're going to save in our fuel bill. But when you compare that to what you pay for it now, a year later, it's gone up by about £100 a month. So I'm glad we got in when we did, But yeah, I feel like we've got a lot of car for our money. So as I say, it's not perfect, and there are things about it that are annoying me a little bit, but they're not deal breaker things. And I'm going to do follow-up videos about this to talk more about some of the other things I find annoying about the car, and probably other things I find awesome about the car. But yeah, it does the important things right, and the real surprise is how it drives. I'm really surprised how good it is to drive, but it just is such a great all-rounder for families. You know, I like having a 7-seater even though we've only got 2 kids, because it means we've got a really big boot, and that'll be great for when we finally get a dog and when we go on our family trips and we need all that space. So I just think this is a perfect car for families. And yeah, so I really think you should take a look at this if you are shopping for a big SUV or a 7-seater or a plug-in hybrid. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Love to know yours about this car and about my video, so please do leave me a comment below, and if you enjoyed the video, please do like and subscribe. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.